In the early 1980s, NASA launched a ton of space shuttles. Every time they launched, the public got more and more bored with it, and less interested. This was a big deal for NASA, because without the public's support, then they don't get the funding that they need. In order to change this, they decided that they were going to put a civilian on board one of the shuttles, as a technique to gain back the public's interest. The first time they actually used this was in 1986 on January 28th in the Challenger STSL-51 launch. On board that shuttle was teacher Krista McAuliffe, who wasn't just a teacher but also a mother of two. If it had succeeded, it would have been a huge step in the direction towards space tourism, where in the future they thought that people would eventually pay to go on one of the shuttle flights. Instead of this happening, the shuttle exploded 73 seconds into the flight and went up into a ball of smoke. The tragedy can be blamed on the rubber O-ring seals that ran along the solid rocket boosters at each fuel joint. They ended up eroding because of cold temperatures and allowed the highly pressurized gases that they were holding in to leak into the main liquid fuel tank, setting it on fire. Moore and Thiokol, the creators of the solid rocket booster, knew about these O-rings and the problems that they had. And they put together a task force when they saw these problems on earlier launches, but the task force hadn't made any changes to the O-ring seals before the launch, and they paid the price for it. The night before the launch, Moore and Thiokol and NASA had a teleconference to discuss any potential problems with the cold weather launch. That was when engineers at Moore and Thiokol, who were on the task force, pointed out that the O-rings had a bad track record when launching at cold temperatures. They told NASA that they would not recommend launching in temperatures below 53 degrees Fahrenheit, and the next day was supposed to be much colder than that. NASA wasn't happy with this news, and they had already delayed 2 times because of rain forecasts and technical issues. Upset with this news, Lawrence Malloy, the head of the rocket booster project at NASA, responded to Moore and Thiokol. "Good God, Thiokol, when do you want me to launch? Next April?" This is obviously a very intimidating statement, especially when you're hearing it from your boss. Moore and Thiokol then left the teleconference for 30 minutes to talk it over. At Moore and Thiokol, in that time, it was sort of a battle between the managers and the engineers. The engineers desperately wanted to stop the launch and delay it to warmer temperatures. The managers, however, knew how upset NASA was and didn't want to delay for a third time, and flexed their power over the engineers and ended up signing off on the launch. All of this news eventually came back to the public when Ronald Reagan set up a presidential commission called the Rogers Commission, with William Rogers as head, to investigate the disaster. The commission's findings really showed the public how much of a business NASA was. The commission's findings were really shocking news for many people, as NASA before that was heroes. Now they were looking at an organization that basically killed 7 people on live television in front of almost every child in America. In defense of NASA and Moore and Thiokol, they had a lot of pressure put on them. They had told the government that they were looking to make 2 launches a month, when in actuality, in the previous years, they had only made 15 launches. Therefore, there was a lot of pressure put on launching, and not as much on safety. NASA would survive this disaster, and would keep making shuttle launches until 2011, when the program was shut down. Nowadays, it isn't only NASA in the space business launching rockets. Now you're looking at companies like SpaceX and others. And NASA is helping them launch instead of just launching their own rockets and vehicles. SpaceX is actually planning on launching in May. And with all these new companies, we could be looking at another surge in rocket launches once again.